Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined, as always, with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to Salem. He likes to hear from each and every one of you. So tonight's guest is a writer, director, actor with works including Air Fryer Slaughter, Anywhere, and The Devil's Wasteland. Please welcome to the Void, William Long.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Good. I know we had a nice cool down in this area. After the 70-degree weather we kind of had like a day ago, but
yeah, I got to enjoy that for a little while.
yeah, I got to dig a little bit in my yard to help fix a hole in my foundation, so that's fun.
I was in Pittsburgh being an extra for a television show.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah, we got to be outside in the beautiful weather. So,
are you able to say what you were at, what that TV show was for?
And we signed NDAs for it.
Okay. No worries. That's cool, though. But let's get a little bit to know about you before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the show. So what really brought you into the world of acting? Was there any movie that you go, I want to do that?
I think it really started with my love of horror movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. And, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. Just the special effects, the intense music, the acting, I just fell in love with it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, do you have a favorite of those kind of the big three that you named there?
Oh, Friday the 13th, definitely.
Friday the 13th. I mean, yeah. I do have Jason right there.
Yeah, cool.
Now, was that your first horror movie, or do you kind of recall what your first horror movie was?
I think the first one that really had an effect on me was Salem's Lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that little boy tapping on the window. That gave me nightmares, and after that, I was hooked.
Yeah, I love that movie. We have another show where we watch horror movies and review them, and that's on our list to go back and revisit the 1979 original, the sequel that came out, and then the remake that came out last year as well.
I've seen all three, and by far my favorite's the first.
Oh, hands down, completely agree with that. Do you consider, do you read Stephen King, and you have read Salem's Lot after watching it and going back to watch and see how it kind of compares to the book?
Yeah, I've done that, especially with The Stand. That movie was, the television version that they had was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Now, did you watch the new one that they did a couple years ago?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the remakes really don't throw me that much, but I eventually get around to them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to. If you love the original, you just got to see what someone else's take on it really is.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's like the original like Resident Evil movies and stuff like that. The remakes and the animated versions were okay, but not as good.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited with the news that we had just, I think, in the past week, that the guy who wrote Barbarian is now doing the new Resident Evil movie that comes out next year?
Oh, I didn't even hear that yet. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. There's a lot of buzz about the guy who's like made some fantastic horror movies, but getting such a huge name movie next on his list. But we can only tell.
Some of the older directors, when they get their hand on a remake, you can see it, and they usually turn out pretty good.
Yeah. The less we talk about the 2005 The Fog, the better.
Yeah. I don't want to go there.
Yeah. So kind of, William, on that line, I'd like to get your pulse on horror movies, and in your opinion, what's kind of like the most overrated horror movie IP or franchise that you just don't get why it's so popular?
I'd say it's probably like Silent Hill. I wasn't a big fan. Nightmare on Elm Street was entertaining, but I don't think it was. I don't know, it wasn't the art form that I was looking for.
Yeah, I believe I think the new Silent Hill slated for this year. If not, yeah. I'm excited though. I mean, they're nowhere near the games, but they have their own things, right? It wasn't a Yui Bowl type movie where he made Alone in the Dark, let's say.
Yeah. I love old classics like the original Cube.
Love
it's
it.
Like the psychological part of it's just amazing.
Yeah, there was a Japanese remake last year, I believe. I didn't have a chance to watch it. Did you watch that one yet?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was okay.
They
stuck pretty close to
it. So it's worth a watch. That's nothing else then, right?
Okay, definitely.
Yeah. Sweet.
It'll entertain you.
Yeah, I love the original Cube. My wife loves the original Cube as well. So
I'd say I was a big fan of the original Hellraiser movies too. They went a little off the rails for a while, but the newest one that just came out was decent.
Yeah, arguably the best one in 20-ish years.
Yeah.
So then, William, on the other side of that, what's the most underrated horror movie that you can think of? Like if someone says, I've never seen this movie, that okay, whatever you're doing, drop what you're doing and go watch this right now.
Oh wow, there's a lot of them. I'm really into like Tubi movies and indie films that don't have large audiences, but yeah, I've seen some really good ones. I've seen a lot of really bad ones, but there are good ones out there. There was a one I think was in the '60s called Flesh Eaters. I thought it was pretty decent, but most people I talked to had never heard of it. So
I don't know if I've heard of that one. I may have. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to definitely look into that. If you suggest it, though.
I liked older ones like The Day of the Triffids and things like that. Like some of the older English monster movies.
Yeah, I mean, English horror was a huge, 60s and 70s, especially with Hammer horror.
Oh yeah,
kind of bringing back all the classics, right?
I got raised on Hammer horror.
That's awesome, though. It's I have a Laserdisc collection, and I go, all right, I'm getting the original classic Universal monsters, then Hammer horror. I made to make sure I have a physical copy of that of every movie they've released
on Laserdisc. You said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only like a handful that never made it to Laserdisc, which is disappointing, but
yeah,
almost a complete collection, so about 80%. So
yeah, I like a lot of the in public domain older. They're kind of weird movies, but like they came out in the 50s and 60s, and they've got like weird names that nobody's ever heard of before. Kind of like looking for treasures.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I remember like Target years ago having like a collection of 50 classic sci-fi and horror movies for like $20, picking those up.
I think I still have a few of those.
Yeah, the Wasp Woman, Attack of the Giant Leeches.
Yeah,
all that stuff. It's a good testament of the atomic age of horror and sci-fi, where everything was nuclear powered.
Yeah, the atomic vampire.
yeah, the Incredible Melting Man.
Yeah. Saturday mornings.
Exactly. All right, William. So let's get in kind of the meat and potatoes of you and what you do. So how did you get into acting? Was it something that you kind of grew up with and you like did school for it or anything like that?
Well, I started out, I wanted to make movies. And this is 15, 16 years ago. I mean, I had a VHS camcorder and I was, downloading on the disc and then putting it onto my computer and, Windows Movie Maker. I made some interesting things, but I just kept working at it and getting into bigger projects. And I've done so many projects now, it's hard to remember them all. But now I've gotten into the other side of the camera. And I got to tell you, acting is hard. I've directed, I've run camera, I've run sound, but I guess I took for granted how hard it is to act. Now that I'm on the other side of the camera, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So I'm taking some acting classes and such. So.
Yeah, I mean that's it's awesome to hear that, because some people don't like to switch that plane, right? They don't like to go in front of the camera, or they don't like to go behind the camera. I myself did acting for 4 years in high school, did plays, did sketches, and wrote, but I learned the audio and visual and camera work, and I go, you know what? I kind of like being behind the camera or
Yeah.
behind the audience more than anything else.
Well, I love both of them, but I think I'm more suited for behind the camera. But around here, it's hard to find talented people that want to be in the movie. So it's normally I end up getting in front of the camera by, oh, so and so dropped out. You want to take their place? So I
Right.
work both sides now.
Yeah, it's in the indie world, you have to wear multiple hats. You got to do what you can do to make the movie, because generally your crew's not that big.
Yeah. It's like I'm working on, I think, 7 projects right now, and I have a different role in each one. So,
Wow.
one I'm an actor, one I'm a director, one I'm just like just everything.
Right. Yeah, I see that, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, because I'm interested to see how that dynamic works for you and all that stuff. But I have a couple questions here from chat too. Is with being in front of the camera and behind the camera, which one do you kind of find more rewarding creatively?
It used to be behind the camera, but now that I've seen the roles that I've been getting and what I can do in front of the camera, I'm I'm getting more of an appreciation for what I can do in front of the camera. So I
That's
think I'm
good.
starting to enjoy that more.
Do you ever see yourself stepping away completely from the behind the camera work and just going into acting solely?
No,
No.
I think it's too much of a draw for me, the puzzle of figuring out indie film problems. And it's like I could never just sit still on a set and not want to get my hands on
Mm-hmm. But that's good though, right?
it.
It shows that you want to make the movie happen, because let's face it, making the movie is hard.
Oh yeah, but I'm in the process of making one that I had written quite some time ago. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I the phrase I like to use is herding kittens. It's it's like when you're trying to get a crew and the cast and dates and times and places and sets all organized just for one shoot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it can be complicated.
Yes, it can. I know for certain, because last year I was the assistant director on the movie, kind of help add things here, and we had to really pivot by people not showing up as actors and stuff
Yeah,
like that, to the point where I put my wife in the movie because we needed someone.
I completely understand. Believe me.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
the cast you start out with is never the cast that's in the final cut.
no, not in the slightest. Like I said, it's it's there's a lot of pitfalls, as you talk about, that there's to making a movie. And is there anything that you didn't realize back then that you kind of know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of all this?
Uh, who to trust and who not to.
Mm,
Yeah, I at the beginning fell for a lot of lines. People with big dreams and big promises. And I put an awful lot of work and time and effort into projects, and it just didn't pan out.
yeah, that's I mean, I'm sure part of the same groups online that you see some names fly around that you don't necessarily want to work with. But I try to give everyone a chance. I try to be as nice a guy as possible.
Oh yeah, that's what a lot of people when they get to know me, they're like, "Well, you are the nicest person I've ever met. Why do you keep getting these characters?" It's like every character I play is a homicidal murderer, or a pervert, or a convict, or a criminal. Or
Right. But that shows that you're able to fill that role and have it be outside of yourself.
yes, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to let your bad guy out every once in a while,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if it's just for acting.
Yeah. For me, I want to either be brutally killed on screen and just get covered all the gore, all the blood, and sit in the chair for hours, or I want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work. It really
Oh,
is. But I said everyone wears multiple hats. That's a good crew, because I see you work with the same crew on a lot of your stuff too.
oh yeah. Yeah, we have the people that I work with are like interchangeable. I mean, you'll run into the same people on like 10 different sets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's completely different movie, different script, different everything, but it's like, oh, I worked with you on this, I worked with you on that, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a good feeling to get that cast and crew that you're able to do that with, because it makes, in my opinion, the movie making process easier if you know what they're doing, what they're capable of, and how eager they are to work on the
Oh yeah.
project. You find that too?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's almost like coming home when you're working with
Yeah,
the same people.
yeah, I work with not just horror, but I work with groups across the whole spectrum of indie films. I,
Mm-hmm.
I work with a man named Bill Shodden, and he does industrial videos, like training videos and stuff, but he
Yeah,
also does Christian faith-based films. So and to me, it's just as rewarding making those kind of movies. I mean, it's more fun with the blood and the guts and zombies.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole process of putting it together and figuring it out like a puzzle. It's addictive.
It really is. I remember my first day on the set, and I just showed up to guy I met online once, went down there, and like 3 a.m. in the middle of a field, cannon fire going off in the storm. Like, I like this.
Mm-hmm. It's like we have a saying. It's like once you're bit by it, that's it. You're done. You'll always want to make movies.
Oh, that absolutely happened to me for sure. So when you're looking for roles and stuff, talk about the different aspects that you have. What do you really look for in a role, and do you kind of want to go more towards film or TV, or do you not have a preference?
I like the indie films. I I like short, poignant parts. I
Mm-hmm.
like to be the bad guy. The jump scare. You know, boo! Here's the monster. Now he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and like I said, just going to I'm known for showing up on the sets when I'm not even on, you know, scheduled to work that day. I just want to be there and see it happen.
Yeah, it's interesting to come from it from that perspective too, of just kind of like the bystander, but you get to see all the nuances, all the details, all the behind the scenes stuff too that most people don't get to see.
Yeah.
But I love behind the scenes stuff, and that's why I do the show, just to learn about that stuff.
Yeah, we did a documentary about one of the movies we made not too long ago called Recommissioned.
Okay.
And the way they put it together, it's like they interviewed us all about, the experiences behind the scenes. And it was like, well, I get to relive what I did and I get to be a part of another movie. it's like, I'm winning all the way around here.
That's awesome. I love to hear stuff like that, because I said people need to know. I don't think it's going to ruin the movie magic, but to kind of learn the trials and tribulations of the film getting made.
Oh, yeah. It's like I said, it's when I say it's a puzzle, you have bad days and good days. I mean, there's days on set where it rains or it's hot and miserable or it's freezing cold, but still, when you see the end product, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, question from Chad is, what has been the most difficult part of filmmaking, and what have you learned about yourself and being the jack of all trades?
Well, for me, it's dealing with people. I'm normally, I would say an introvert, but I'm not good speaking. I'm not good, interacting with strangers and that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm on a film set, for some reason it changes. I just I get into the groove and everything seems to fall together.
But that's good. My producer will say otherwise, but I'm generally an introvert too. But doing the online shows I do, doing the podcasts I do, and doing the movies, I had to learn to be this persona of myself when presenting myself to people. I still enjoy it. Like I said, would I rather be inside reading the book? Yeah.
That's my biggest criticism that I get from people is that I'm too soft-spoken. You know, I can't hear what you're saying. Speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like I've been an assistant director several times, and when I get on set and I need things to go a certain way, then I'm no longer soft-spoken and quiet. And they're like, "Oh, okay."
He means it now.
Yeah. For some reason, if you're quiet most of the time somebody knows you, as soon as you raise your voice, it's like it means something a little more to them.
I can see that for sure. That's awesome though. And I know you're talking about you've written stuff, and you've written, directed, and acted in a couple of things. You have a couple more things coming out. So what was that process like, even with being, say, Cannibal Tick, maybe your first feature-length movie that you wrote and then directed and acted in?
Well, actually, there's 2 Cannibal Ticks.
Okay.
The first one I did, like, I'm going to say it was 2017 or 2007. Sorry. And then we did another one when we moved to Ohio. We did like a reboot of it. And I enjoyed both of them immensely. I mean, it's like if I could, I would make a movie a year. But it's difficult to put it all together. So, but yeah, the writing part for me is easy, and the imagination that to put together an interesting story. That part's easy, but I have dyslexia.
Okay.
So spelling is not easy, and to put it together, I usually find somebody who wants to write a script with me.
Okay.
And we collaborate on it, and I'll give them ideas and put it together. And a lot of the indie groups that I work with will ask me for ideas, and I think that's one of the things I love the most about it. I can give them ideas and then see those ideas take form in the movie.
Right. That's cool. Like I said, my producer and co-host my show, we co-write stuff now together because he's a master of words. I am not.
Yeah.
But do you find yourself kind of working with the same writers on projects, or you kind of try to branch out and get different people to co-write with?
Oh, it's almost always different people. Right now, the one we're working on is called Welcome to Resolves. And there's a man named Peter Lusick. He's a professional actor. He was a professional wrestler. And he wrote a section of the movie. Now, I had written the entire script years ago.
Okay.
But I took it to him and a friend of mine named John Kathleen. And I told him, I said, look, you guys, Pete knows the serious part. You know the action part. Here's this story that I wrote. Let's sit down and hash out a modern version of it. Because when I originally wrote it, I didn't include things like the internet and cell phones and that kind of thing. I said, I want to update this. I want to make it more modern. So we each sat down and we wrote out parts of it in different scenes and then we collaborated together on it. And that's the one we're shooting right now. So
that's awesome. I said, I love people being able to do it. And do you have other stuff in the past you think that maybe you're going to rework into a feature film remade now?
I probably will, because I probably have like 50 scripts that I've written.
Oh, wow.
And I shot them, and they usually ended up like on YouTube or something like that. But a lot of these movies that I made were like in the backyard with a VHS camcorder with my kids. So,
right.
So we did it for fun back then. So I'd like to remake a few of them.
That's cool though. I mean, I think I always call the streaming service, especially Tubi, for independent creators. is fantastic. It's no longer the copy of the VHS that you had to get in the 80s and 90s. Now you're able to have a wider audience with stuff like Tubi, and I think it's just been an amazing product to showcase indie work.
Well, that's another thing is too. There are the people that I'm working with now.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie that I work on, I seem to. I won't say a higher level because I don't like the whole A-lister and B-lister, but like Lisa Nealon, she's going to star in Welcome to Resolves.
Okay.
She's been in dozens of movies. John Kathleen's been in dozens of movies. Peter Lusik's been in movies. And I think almost every person I'm working with has been in some aspect in another movie that are on streaming services and Tubi. So it's like the pool of talent that I'm getting to work with now is amazing.
Yeah, that's what I love about the internet, that we're able to reach out and find all these people now too.
Yeah, we never could do that before.
Right. Yeah, you talk to other people like, oh yeah, I made 20 self tapes today. I had to send them out just to get jobs, and applying to dozens and dozens. And I think with Tubi, we are seeing people realizing that they can make a movie. They have distribution and a way to get to people. I think we're getting more and more creatives out there in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, with you going to acting school, do you ever find yourself saying you go to film school? Do you kind of think that you need some schooling to get into this field and industry at all, or do you think you kind of just get in there with knowing people and just making connections?
I don't believe in for indie film work. I don't believe that film school is necessary. If you're going into like making commercials or commercial films, that type of thing, then yeah, when you're working with a studio and a budget and all the proper equipment, but when you're hanging flashlights from trees to light your set, it's not going to help you very much.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's interesting because, like I said, indie takes that. We have a shoestring budget, and we still make it work.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with going to film school. I mean, I know several people that I work with have gone to film school, and they know things that I don't. But at the same time, it's like taking that knowledge that you learn in school and adapting it to an indie film set can be tricky.
Right. You think there's like 1,000 cast and crew, but indie there's 10.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, William, either from directing and shooting and acting, what's kind of been the hardest scene for you to get on tape, essentially, that you can recall?
You mean the hardest thing for me to adapt to?
Oh no, hardest scene to shoot, whether from an acting perspective or directing perspective.
I think for me it's the intimate parts of it. The interactions between people, getting that reaction, that look, that close up that really sells the scene. I mean, it's hard. It's like I do a lot of editing too, but when you're editing a scene like between a man and a woman having a conversation, to get the emotional aspect of it just right, that's a difficult puzzle to work out.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And to be fair, in most horror movies, all right, you always have that little bit of a love interest somewhere along the lines. And if you don't make that believable, then the rest of it's not believable. I mean, it's like putting a recipe together. If you get one ingredient from them, and the whole batch is spoiled.
Yeah, that's very, very true. It's the intimacy between characters is how you make the audience care for them and want to make sure they live. Right.
I mean, if you have a final girl at the end of a horror movie and everybody hates her, then they'll be rooting for her to die. They'll be
Yeah.
mad she didn't.
Yeah, I know. I know there's been a couple movies that have tried that just people did not like the movie for it.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Dash Cam being a big one. That you don't want to root for the person that nobody wants to live. Awesome. So let's get into we're at the 30 minutes. Let's get into this wrap up questions. So of all the stuff, what's your favorite scary movie of all?
Wow. I would probably say, yeah, maybe Jaws.
Jaws?
Yeah, because it got your heart pumping. You know, it was exciting. Or the first Aliens.
Yeah.
I know that's up into sci-fi, but it's those kind of movies where it builds the intensity all the way through to the very end. That's the kind of movie I really like.
Yeah, Jaws was the first horror movie that I ever saw. I saw it at too young and it scared the crap out of me. So,
I can believe it.
so it's to the point where my sisters were playing the theme song on the piano and I got scared. And I'm not anywhere near an ocean, so which is in the Midwest here.
Well, I grew up in South Jersey, so we were like a half mile from the beach. So when I saw Jaws, I was like, I didn't go swimming for a few summers.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, William. So the age-old question we always ask everyone here: practical or CGI?
Oh, practical. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the CGI effects and everything, but as I said before, you know, working that puzzle and making things look just right and figuring out how to make them look right, that's a big part of making movies for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially on in indie world, practical's easier.
Yeah, we'll get a tube and run it here, and we'll shoot blood there, and we'll get some toilet paper and paint it.
Yeah, I've been on the spray hose before, man. For this,
many a time.
Yeah, I've had it on me too, where if someone's like 30 feet behind me in a cornfield and they have to shoot it and make sure we get it on cue and all that stuff. It's pain, but it's worth it in the end.
I remember the terror in the one cast space when I came out with this box and I said, "Look, I bought black powder." They're like, "No, take it away from them."
It's awesome. All right, so William, I know you portrayed Gilbert in a Revenge of Nerds on Halloween, but besides a major franchise like that, those two, if you could work in any existing IP or franchise, what would it be?
Oh, it'd definitely be Friday the 13th. I would give anything just to be a victim in a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Or, you know, they are doing the Crystal Lake prequel series as well.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so William, any advice for people getting into the filmmaking field, whether it's an actor or director or writer?
Work with people you're comfortable with. I mean, that's you. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once it stops being fun, then find somebody else to work with.
Love it. All right, are you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Sure.
All right. Who was the director of the 1982 movie Creepshow?
Ooh, that's a good one. 1982. Yeah, you stumped me on that one.
All right, would you like to know?
Yes, definitely.
George Romero.
Oh, I should have known.
All good. So, William, before we sign off, where can people find you and follow and give us all your pluggables, anything that's coming out that you want to get people on the radar for?
Well, there's Welcome to Resolves. We're shooting that now. I'm going to be doing one called Monster Docs. That's this summer. I'm doing with Vince Burkett.
Okay.
I'm doing one with Jim Coons called Wrong Way. I'm just starting a project called Kingsbury Run with John Price. And I have several other smaller projects, but yeah, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, IMDB.
Awesome. We do have links to that stuff down below for anyone interested. So, anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Of course, man. Anytime you have a new project coming out and you have any campaigns or Kickstarters, let us know. We always will make room for people to come on and to promote that stuff to get the audience knowing about it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Of course. So thank you, William, for joining us tonight. And as always, I am Graveyard. Follow us on all social media at Pod Out at Night to stay tuned for all news. And we'll see you next time. And don't get lost in the void. Good night.
Hey, thank you.